Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Huntley. Can people hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you. And some of you have your screens turned off. That's okay. I don't have the luxury of doing that. I'm the executive director of the Youth Service Bureau, and I've been with the organization for just over 31 years, and I'm excited to be here with you tonight. I started originally as one of our youth and family therapists, and I still do that one day a week, in addition to all of my newer responsibilities. I'm licensed here in the state of Minnesota as a psychologist, and my wife and I have raised 5 kids. They all came up through the Stillwater schools after starting at Valley Crossing. And our youngest child is about to graduate this spring from college over in Eau Claire. So I bring both a professional and a personal aspect to all of my work supporting youth and families. And as I mentioned, I'm really excited to be with you tonight. I know it's a virtual meeting. We'll try to make it work well to meet your needs. And hopefully you guys are not completely zoomed out at the end of perhaps a long Monday. The topic tonight is supporting and safeguarding the mental well-being of teachers. And isn't that an interesting and timely topic to have? It's been a year filled with changes and requiring us all to be resilient in ways we never could have imagined just 15 months ago. The whole experience can be a challenge to our mental well-being. And tonight we'll talk about some things that teachers can do to help protect their sanity and their well-being, and also to be a support to one another. And if we can make this interactive, I would welcome that. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to jump in and get my attention. I'm not able to see the chat box real well, but I don't mind if you just come on and like wave your hand, or if you're in the chat box, Mary can help draw my attention to that. But what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, is to go around our virtual room here and do a little check-in and some brief introductions. If you're willing to, could you share your name, the affiliation of where you're with, like which school, and something that you're hoping to learn about in this evening's class that would help me kind of framing up the content for tonight. And we can start. I'm just looking at my screen here. The first person I see is Renee Hinkle.
Hello, let me get my video on again. Sorry. Hi, I'm Renee Hinkle. I'm the president of the PTA, but I'm also a parent of a 3rd grader and a 2nd grader. I'm not an educator in elementary school. I'm a preschool teacher's aide. So, but I'm not, I mean, there's no burnout compared to what our elementary, middle, and high school teachers are going through. So I'd like to find out ways to support them from a parent's perspective too.
Okay, great. How about someone named Ms. Teresa?
Hi, my name's Teresa Helms. I am a parent of 3 kiddos that go to Lake Elmo Elementary, and then I'm actually also an early childhood special ed teacher outside of the district. This is my 2nd year doing it, so it's been an interesting 1st year starting and 2nd year continuing, so I'll take in anything you got to offer.
All right. Good, thanks. How about Lara Zuliger?
Hi, I'm Laura Zuliger. I'm a parent of a 2nd and 4th grader at Lake Elmo. I am not an educator, but I'm on the PTA, so I just thought I would show up and see what I can learn.
Very good. Michaela, I'm not even going to try.
I know, it's a doozy. Gwazden is the last name.
Thank you. I would have gotten it wrong.
I have a 1st and 3rd grader, and I taught 5th graders for about 12 years, and now I'm currently teaching 8th graders geography over in Woodbury, South Washington County.
Nice, welcome. How about Jen Nelson?
Hi, I'm Jen Nelson. I am a kindergarten Spanish immersion teacher at Lake Elmo.
Okay.
I'm also the liaison teacher for the PTA. So I know this amazing crew too.
Good, good. Is there anyone, I think that's all I see on my screen. Okay, if we got everybody, that's good. Thank you for coming. There might be people who join us along the way, so there might be more names, but I'll kind of get started. I want to share some information with you guys that is intended to be supportive for teachers or people who are helping support teachers. It's also perfectly valid information for all of us as parents as well. So a couple of things that I wanted to talk about is the materials that I have. I kind of broke it into two elements. One is things that we can do in the short term to help de-stress ourselves, how to reduce stress kind of in the here and now in the short term. But the other piece that I want to make sure we cover and talk about are what is that longer term stress reduction work? How do we protect ourselves kind of in the long run, not just reactively in the moment? And both pieces are important, and I want to try to cover elements of that today. So can I ask you guys on the short-term aspect, is anyone willing to share, and you know I like interaction, does anyone want to share something that they do that works well for them in the here and now to reduce stress or tension or pressure?
I have a shoulder massager that I use a lot.
Nice. Nice. Anyone else have something that they do that helps reduce stress or pressure or helps them relax?
I have the Apple Watch, and it always reminds me to breathe.
Okay.
It's funny how often I need those reminders, but yeah, so
Yep.
just that stopping everything to do some deep breathing, sometimes with like calm music. Sometimes.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. Thanks for mentioning that, Renee. Those breathing techniques are really, really powerful. They're really valuable. And something I wanted to say about the breathing techniques is you'll hear different versions or different recommendations where they teach you to count a certain number and then do this and then do that. All of that is part of the discovery process, the learning process. But if you find a particular way of doing that deep breathing that's helpful to you, that's the one to use. It doesn't have to follow a prescription, but some of you may have heard of a technique called squared breathing. That's usually the starting point when we're teaching a breathing technique. But I want to emphasize it's not the ending point, because some people don't find squared breathing to help. But let me just summarize what squared breathing is. It's where you start like at the bottom corner of the square and you breathe into a certain count, and then you hold that breath for the same count, and then you breathe out for that same count, and then you hold again back to the starting point, and you can begin a new square. And research shows that about 4 or 5 squares of this breathing can have a very powerful effect on us and kind of slow down that feeling of urgency. The timing of the square is completely up to you. Most people find 2 or 2.5 or 3, even 3.5 seconds per side can be very, very helpful. You can experiment with that. Personally, I don't like squared breathing myself. It actually makes me feel more anxious. I prefer rectangular breathing, and I do a longer side of inhaling, a shorter hold, a nice long exhale, and a shorter hold. And that rectangular breathing is personally more effective for me. Some people prefer triangle breathing, and they eliminate one of those holding periods. It's really whatever works, but what the breathing technique does is it interrupts the stress response cycle that can happen in our body. So that breathing can be very helpful. And for years, we've heard people say, you know, take a few deep breaths before you respond to somebody. Well, there's actually science that supports all of that. Other things that people can do in the short run is going for a brief walk. Some people will use visualization, imagine a place that they like to go or that's relaxing. Some people will use their technology to pull up a soothing scene and kind of look at that for a few minutes. Some people enjoy using soothing music or something that helps them kind of slow down. And other people like to do things like coloring. Does anyone in our group tonight do sort of the adult coloring books? There are some, and there's actually science behind that, yeah, doing those coloring books can be very centering and calming and help us de-stress kind of in the moment. I will have a mindfulness coloring book resource that will be available later in the materials. Okay. Also, talking with another person, particularly for teachers to find a colleague that they can talk with. Sometimes that's hard to do that impromptu when we're doing distance learning, but there are creative ways to do that with technology. And as the teachers are getting back into the school environment, I know they're going to be leaning on one another and just being a sounding board to just talk a little bit about things that are happening that can help with stress as well. In terms of short-term de-stressing techniques, does anyone else in the class want to share something that they might do or that they use that helps?
I use the Calm app.
Nice.
And so I will do sleep stories or meditation. I really enjoyed it because it has so many options as far as an actual teaching meditation to a simple sleep story. And I've never heard the end of a sleep story because I always fall asleep.
Nice.
But it also has the sounds, you know, you can choose the beach or just regular instrumental music. And so I've really gotten a lot out of that. And that has been new to me since I think I started it in December.
Okay.
And it's very helpful. Jen,
do you have a subscription to the Calm membership?
Yes.
Yes. So there, just so everyone knows, if you're hearing this, it's CALM. It's an app available for your devices. There is a free version, and then there's a subscription version. And of course, the subscription version gives you more tools and resources. But if you just wanted to check it out, it's been around for some time and it's highly rated. You can look at it as a free app. You just might not get all those sleep stories that Jen was mentioning, and other things might not be available unless you pay.
Well, and there's also new ones that pop up all the time with the subscription, but I did have a 7-day free trial, which is what made me decide to get it. Oh, and I was flopping between that and Headspace. I think Headspace also has some great stuff.
Yep.
But I didn't have a chance to look into that until I had already chosen Calm. So.
Okay, very nice.
Another one that's like that is Downward Dog has apps that are free to teachers right now. And they have a meditation one, like a yoga one, which is what I was going to say is I attempt to do yoga in some of my free time to try to help me relax. But then they also have, two other workout ones, but they have a meditation one and a yoga one that are, I think, free until July for teachers for sure.
Oh, great. And can you share, how do you verify with them that you are a teacher?
You have to use your teacher email.
Okay. Yep. Very nice. Okay. I'm going to shift our conversation just a little bit now into some of those longer term stress reduction techniques, all of which can help, protect our mental health and well-being. But the longer term concept refers to not things you do in the moment right when you need it, but building things into a routine or a pattern of your life, kind of a prevention plan that helps support our mental health as well. So the first one that I'd like to talk to you guys about, and you've probably heard things about this before, has to do with making sure that we get good sleep. Does anyone know about sleep and the amount of sleep that you need? Okay, well, I'll give you some info, and there's, depending where you look, you find different interpretations of this. And interestingly, Youth Service Bureau, we just put out a rebroadcast with Dr. Corey from Central Pediatrics, and he's talking about the importance of sleep. So if you look for our Facebook page or our LinkedIn page, you can see a video that talks about sleep, but I'll share some information tonight with you as well. The experts say that adults probably need 7 to 8 or even 9 hours of sleep, depending on the resource. And that, what they're referring to is not just turn off the lights and lay there waiting to fall asleep. It's actually sleeping. Sleep is a recovery process for our brains and our bodies. And in our culture today, we have things that kind of disrupt and make it harder to get that good quality sleep. You guys have probably heard about the recommendation to try to go screen-free before bedtime. Does anybody know how long we're supposed to go screen-free before bedtime?
I'm gonna guess an hour.
An hour? Yeah, that's kind of the recommendation, about an hour. But there's some actual scientific and medical reasons for that. Why should we go screen-free for an hour before our planned bedtime?
Does it have something to do with our circadian rhythm?
It does, and I'm going to add a little detail to that. Very good. Some of you may have heard about this, and if not, you can Google it and find information. But there is something called blue wave light, and it comes out of the screens that we use, whether it's a phone, a TV, a tablet, a pad, even the fancy new watches have this blue wave light. And blue wave light is put into the devices because it makes the colors look very, very vibrant, and it makes the pixel quality easy on our eyes. It makes things easier to read. So newer computers and TV screens have this vivid appearance to it. That's kind of the upside of why blue wave light is being utilized. The downside is that blue wave light stimulates and activates our brain. And if we're doing that when we're trying to slow down and get sleep, we're disrupting that natural rhythm. We're delaying our ability to slow down. The other part is sometimes the content of what we're viewing on the screens can be very activating or sometimes distressing, and that can interfere with sleep as well. So, you know, we recommend that for kids, but it's true for adults as well. Try not to look at email right before you go to bed. Try not to do that last check of Facebook right before you go to bed. It actually starts stimulating our brains in ways that can interfere with getting good sleep. Another recommendation for that long-term care is something you guys have probably heard about. It has to do with our diet. And there's different ways of consuming nourishment and food. The best recommendation is to try to have a balanced diet, not necessarily a fad diet that focuses on one item or another at the exclusion of others. The healthiest diet there is one that is very well balanced and has periodic meals throughout the day. And of course, being hydrated is helpful in stress relief as well. Many times, people can get dehydrated and at a low level, and it interferes with our ability to feel right or to function properly. So make sure that we're hydrating, and that can make a big difference for you as well, even in terms of mental health. One more item is the importance of activity and having our bodies be active. And during this last year of COVID and quarantining and sheltering and things, it added some additional challenges to how do we keep ourselves active, or what are the creative ways we can be active even when we can't do the stuff that we used to do. Can anyone share something that they have found helpful to keep themselves active?
I, like Renee, was using my iWatch, and it was holding me accountable because it tells me how many steps I've done and how many times I've stood up or how many times I've exercised. So when I don't get my circle, I guess I get a little sad, and then I try to do something.
Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of motivational for you to have some of that instant feedback, or you can check throughout the day, how am I doing on my goal? Yep.
I just make a point to make things a little bit tougher, like, you know, put things across the room so that I'd have to walk all the way across the room to get it, or find excuses to go to different levels of the house, just things like that. And then of course, with it being so nice out, going for walks as much as you can.
Yeah. And if you're running errands, something you can try as simple as park farther away from the store. Don't look for that close convenience spot. Park way out there and give yourself a chance to walk and stretch and move on your way into the store and even on the way back out. All those little pieces kind of add together. Did anyone have to surrender their gym membership during the quarantine period? And if so, what did you try to do alternatively to keep active?
I didn't have a gym membership, but we have Amazon Prime, and they surprisingly have a couple like Zumba videos or whatever that I've just been using, and I have weights too. So sometimes if I'm just watching TV, I'll just, like, my husband looks at me like I'm crazy, but I'll start, you know, lifting, like doing some weights, or doing like ab work or something, just to be moving so I'm not sitting all the time.
Yep. And if you don't have weights, I've heard some people, I've even tried this, you can use like soup cans, just something simple that's in your hand and gives you that little extra push. And some people have been using like standing desks. Anyone in the class? I see some heads nodding. Those standing desks also allow for a little bit more blood flow and some exercise. All those little pieces add up, and not only are they good for our body, but they're good for kind of our mind and our soul, and all of that interacts together. Okay. Little question for you guys. Does anyone know the best form of activity or exercise that it's known and proven to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, reduce depression? The number one best activity or form of exercise there is for the greatest number of people.
Is it walking?
It is walking. Very good. Yep. Now, can I put you on the spot and ask how much walking is recommended?
10,000 steps.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure how it equates to steps, but
Half hour.
the research I've seen says 20 minutes every other day. That's all you need to do for walking to start getting those benefits. If you can do a 20-minute walk every day, you'll have much more of that benefit. But it's not a whole lot of walking needed to get those stress-reducing benefits. Now, the one thing that the research does show, though, it's 20 consecutive minutes. It's not, walking up and down the hallway at school, 50 times. It's 20 minutes sort of nonstop so that you can get the blood flowing and the heart pumping and your lungs working. So it's as easy as that. Some people like to jog or run or do cardio or different activities. All activity is good, but walking has been proven to be the most effective for the greatest number of people. So if you're looking for a way to increase activity, try something as simple as adding some walking into your routine.
Does it have to be like a brisk walk, or if it's just like a stroll, like if you're behind the kids and they're on their bikes or their scooters or something and you're just kind of strolling, or does it have to be kind of like a purposeful with your arms pumping kind of walk?
According to the research, it's just walking for 20 minutes. So I don't think it requires that, high intensity stuff. Some people feel better when they do it that way, but try the casual stroll and see if introducing that, if you can feel the difference. You probably will. Yep. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about another category of this self-care and trying to protect our mental well-being. And we want to talk about things you can do that help protect yourself sort of emotionally and taking care of ourselves emotionally. One thing that has shown up in some of the research on what teachers can do to help protect themselves is to set a few boundaries on when they're working and when they're not working. And teachers work kind of round the clock. That comes with being a teacher, and bless all of you for the efforts you put in, but it really is okay at times to like turn off your email on weekends or evenings and to be thoughtful about, how and when to do that. So you have some time for yourself. We hear about and we talk about, finding this work-life balance. And it is tricky, especially with technology being available. It seems like it's ever present, but sometimes you need to sort of go off the grid a little bit and do things that are for you. And that can include work email and talking that over amongst your colleagues, how people try to create some boundaries on that when they're not actually working. Another is setting some realistic expectations and reminding yourselves that it's okay to say no. Every request that comes your way as a teacher, it may be a request, not a requirement, and it's okay to say no to some things as you help try to find that balance. I think teachers are naturally very helpful and giving and caring people, but that can come at a cost if you're not able to say no at times when it would be helpful to do so. Another recommendation for that teacher self-care is to make sure that you choose and plan one activity a week that is recharging for you. We get going, we get busy, and sometimes we forget to carve out that time that does something just for you to re-energize yourself. And that is a thoughtful process, and one that's easier to say than it is to do sometimes. And then I want to emphasize some of these suggestions that I've been talking about and making, they all overlap and they work together. These things complement one another. So picking and choosing things to do, try to do something from all these categories that I've been referencing, because this does overlap and work together. And I also want to encourage the other important element in this, and that is, how do you support one another? How can your school or your school leadership support you? And how do teachers support one another? Because taking care of our mental well-being isn't something we do all by ourselves. So can anyone share some things that you've experienced, like from your colleagues, that are helpful, and you want to encourage people to kind of keep doing that because it's a nice thing to do and you find it supportive?
I think just talking and knowing that we're all in the same boat, and everybody's got stuff on their plate, and everybody's stuff is heavy for everybody. But if you can share your stuff with somebody else, they can share their stuff with you. It kind of feels like it helps to lighten the weight.
It does. Thank you, Jen. And if you heard the words Jen was using, I wanted to just celebrate that and acknowledge that. She talked about sharing that weight. And that simply means talking about it. It doesn't mean fixing it. It doesn't mean removing it. It doesn't mean making something better. It's just sharing it with one another. Really can make it feel like there's less weight. Can anyone speak to, do you know something that the school is doing that might be good or supportive, or that teachers find helpful? And I ask this because if principals are listening to this, I want them to hear what are teachers finding useful and helpful.
Our leadership is amazing. I think most of the people here on the PTA see that too, but as a teacher, I can't imagine how our principal does, excuse me, does what he does. And not a day goes by that he doesn't encourage us to do the self-care, to, you know, if you need to take a day off, he's behind you for that, because it is part of that mental well-being. Our parents are super supportive. I get messages from parents, just thanks for all you do. Just those little notes encourage you to keep going, especially during COVID and all the extra that was the online or the hybrid teaching that was exhausting. I am so happy right now. I mean, emotionally and mentally, I feel really good because we're back in person. That's super helpful for me. And, but just the appreciation from other staff members, from parents, and our principal is rock solid, amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for mentioning all of that and what your school leadership is doing, Jen, to support the teachers. That spirit of gratefulness is really important. That's a skill that is sometimes lost when we're in periods of stress or pressure. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to add in another concept. Who in the class tonight has heard of the concept of mindfulness or practicing mindfulness? Okay, I see a hand waving. Oh, I see a few hands. Can anyone share a little bit about what mindfulness means to you, or like how would you define mindfulness?
All right, I'll be the loudmouth tonight. Our school has also trained all of us in what used to be called yoga calm. It's now called mindful movement.
Oh.
So we teach the kids not only some yoga poses, we teach them breathing. Like my kids will take stuffed animals and put them on their stomachs and lie on their backs, and we'll watch how the stuffed animal breathes with us as we practice our breathing. So mindfulness, I think, is just being aware of what's going on inside of you as well as around you. So we have a chime, and if the kids are, say, doing child's pose with their heads down and on their knees on the carpet, I'll ding the chime, and they are told to sit up when they can no longer hear the chime. And they pop up at different times, but it's just making them aware or listening. What do you hear around the school? You know, is it the fan? Is it the kids in the hallway? Is it somebody's locker? So just talking about being aware and how that makes us feel after we've done some of those exercises.
Oh, very nice. That was a great explanation. I like that. I was going to oversimplify it a little bit because this isn't we don't have time to do a whole training on mindfulness, but mindfulness is powerful and useful. Here's my oversimplified explanation of what it is. It's actively and intentionally focusing on the present moment. And as Jen was saying, being aware of the things around you and the physical and emotional sensations that your body is experiencing. So here's the kicker. The media has been pushing this idea of mindfulness as though it's like getting into a Zen-like state of quiet peacefulness. And because that's what the media does. It kind of, it messes things up sometimes. However, that's not what mindfulness is really about. It's kind of what Jen was saying. It's being able to be done in the midst of a busy life, in the midst of a busy day. It's a skill intended to be utilized that way to divert our focus from all of that tension that's happening around us. It's finding calm in the chaos. That's what mindfulness is about. It doesn't make chaos go away, or it doesn't fix stressors in our life, but it is finding the capacity to get focused. And this practice of mindfulness actually increases our focus. It reduces stress and can improve performance. So mindfulness is something to look into. I've got some materials that I'll put into our chat box available, and we can email those out as well. Certainly in this last year, we can say things have felt chaotic and unpredictable, and it may be that way for some time. We don't really know, but adding these skills in helps us cope and prevent the negative impacts that stress can sometimes have. I've even got a link that I want you guys to look for in a little bit for teachers, how to use mindfulness in the classroom. And Jen, sounds like you're already doing that with some of that training. Maybe you guys will have seen this resource, but I came across it and I hope that it's helpful to you and supplements what you've learned in your training. Another topic and kind of a buzzword is this concept of resilience. Does anyone have kind of a definition that rings true for them of what resilience is or what it means? What is being resilient?
Persevering, just surviving.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Persevering and surviving. Okay. And I'll add to that, it's the ability to bounce back or recover when we're experiencing adversity. That's what resilience is. We want to teach that for our children, to raise children who are resilient. And I think we need to find ways to reinforce that in each other so that the grown-ups can be resilient. I think people working in the schools have had to, like it or not, figure out how to find that resiliency in themselves to adapt to all of the changes that have been happening over the last year. And changes keep coming. And resiliency allows you to find and tap into your capacity to adapt rather than just get drowned out. So I've got some information specific for teachers that I'll put up in our chat link. The reason I'm not doing that right now is I don't want everybody clicking on it and then not really hearing what we're talking about, but those resources will come. There's also a fun teacher self-care bingo game or chart that I think you might find useful. Maybe you could bring that back to your teacher staff meetings and talk about ways where the whole group can encourage this or support this, or maybe you'll actually figure out a way as a group to play the teacher self-care bingo game. It might be kind of fun. Even to set that as a goal, for the group. Does anyone have questions or comments about things that we've been talking about so far tonight? Okay, I'm going to start putting some of these links into the chat window. We'll also be finding a way to email them out to you. So if you're not familiar with how the chat window works, that's okay. We'll get them to you another way as well. But here is one. I'll see if I can pull this off for you guys. Now, I want this to go to everyone. Excuse me while I think through my own process of getting this to work for you. Okay. Can you guys see, did a link pop up in your chat box? Okay. Then I'm going to put in another one. These are different links. You can use them as you see fit, but I kind of liked them. That's why I'm sharing them with you guys. Yeah, that's good for tonight. We'll get you started with that. And if you go to those sites, you can actually navigate to other areas of that site, and they're geared for teachers. So it's kind of neat. I think you'll find some nice materials, and maybe some of you are already familiar with those sites. If I could ask you guys, if you would please, the participants tonight, if you're familiar with the chat room, you can actually chat Mary Gugesberg directly and privately. And if you could send her any feedback about tonight's presentation, if you found this helpful to you, to what extent, like 1 through 5. If you have any comments on what could improve this presentation, send those to her too. We really take your feedback seriously, and we use that to make our presentations even better as we go forward. So that would be very helpful. And while you're doing that, if I can put in a little commercial, a little plug, what Youth Service Bureau is having its 5th annual gala. It's a virtual event, kind of like this. It's coming up on Thursday, May 13th. And we would invite anybody to come and attend our virtual gala. It doesn't cost anything to join. There is an auction that's available, so there's items that people can bid on, and you can learn more about what Youth Service Bureau does. That'll be part of the gala. It would start at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 13th. And if you'd like more information about how to get to that gala, just simply visit our website at www.ysb.net. And when you go there, information will pop right up related to the gala and help you find how to actually attend that. We'll be streaming it on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. There's a variety of ways for you to join us at our gala. Okay. All right, with that, I'll check one more time if anyone has any questions or comments, things that I might be able to respond to. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your role of being a teacher or supporting teachers or being a teacher at home when we do the hybrid home learning things. We're all teachers in one way or another, and I appreciate all of you in the work that you do to help raise children. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hosting these events. Mike and Mary, you guys have been so wonderful these last 3 months. So thank you for what you have done for our community and for sharing your knowledge with us.
You're very welcome.
We'll get you a copy of this with the links so you can share. And the teachers that are on here, we invite you. It'll be a YouTube, and we'll just invite you to share as you know others would welcome this information too.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You.
Thank you. Good night.